talk a little bit tonight about a one word, which means words. One word that means words. And that word is the name of our parasha, the Shabbat, Devarim. We're starting a new book, the last book of the Torah, the book of Deuteronomy, which is called Devarim, because it begins Ele HaDevarim, every book in Torah. The first significant word, that's the name we give the book, which means these are the words. These are the words that Moses spoke to the people. The book of Devarim is really one long, beautiful elegy that Moses gives to the people as they are preparing to enter into the Promised Land, kind of reviewing past history and giving really incredible moral vision to the people about what does it mean to be a Jew. And this word, words, in Hebrew, it doesn't quite fit to just say it means words, because Devarim means something else as well. Anybody know what does Devarim mean? Things, exactly. Words or things. And in Hebrew, it kind of makes sense, because after all, things came to be. Creation happened by the power of words. God spoke, and things came to be. God spoke, the world was created. So we look into our parasha, we look into this idea about the power of words, and we look at all of the significant words that are within it, and one jumps out. There's one verse that just every time I read it, I say, wow, that's amazing. There's a verse, chapter 1, verse 12, where Moses is actually thinking back to when he was feeling really frustrated with the people, when he was with them through the travels throughout the wilderness. And he says, how can I myself bear the trouble of all of you? How can I bear your bickering, all of your kvetching, you Israelites? How can I do this? And the word for how is echa, how, which when we read it every year, this Shabbat, it's right before Tisha B'Av, this commemorative date that I mentioned before, in which we read the book of Lamentations that describes the destruction of Jerusalem and is called in Hebrew Echa. It begins, the book of Lamentations, Echa yashva badad ha'ir, how lonely sits the city, the destroyed city of Jerusalem. How, Echa, how could this have happened? It's a good question word. Not when or what but how. How did this happen? It makes us not just give a fact, but it invites us to think critically. How could something like this have happened? Moses is asking, how am I going to deal with all of you people? How am I going to understand myself as a leader? How am I going to live this role in which I've been tasked to be as the leader of the Israelites? So how did this city of Jerusalem get destroyed? There are lots of theories, lots of rabbinic ideas about why Jerusalem was destroyed. When the first temple fell, it was because of the sins of the people, that the people were not actually upholding the mitzvot that God had given in the Torah, that they were taking bribes and being false in their worship, etc. But the more interesting story, I think, which is a very well-known story of how, Echa, how did this city fall, is about what happened in the destruction of the second temple in the year 70. It's a very famous story from the Talmud. You maybe have heard it before. It was about a party. There was a big party that was planned by one of the big noble families, Jewish families in Jerusalem. And like every good party, there were invitations that were sent out. And one of the people that was to be invited was someone named Bar Kamsa. Well, whoever was working on these invitations, this was before Evite or anything like that, mixed it up, and instead of inviting Bar Kamsa, invited Kamsa. You could see how such a mistake might happen. So Kamsa shows up at the party, I don't know, bearing flowers or a bottle of wine, I'm not quite sure. Knocks on the door opens, the host sees the wrong person has arrived, and instead of inviting them in, oh, come on in, glad you're here, shuts the door. And Kamsa leaves. Kamsa gets so upset about this slight that he goes to the Romans and tells them to make as a gift an animal to give to the Jews as a gift on their behalf, but he makes it blemished, or he does something to it that makes it so that they can't actually offer it as a sacrifice. And because of that, the Jews don't sacrifice what the Romans offer, the Romans get insulted, and boom, the city is destroyed. All because of hurt feelings from this party. The rabbis say that it was because of what they called sinat chinam, senseless hatred between Jews, that the temple was destroyed. So when we ask this question on Tisha B'Av, Eicha, how? One of the answers is it's because the Jewish people weren't getting along. That we couldn't look past these petty grievances, that we couldn't look past these insults, that we couldn't open the door and say, please come in, that we shut each other out. That word Eicha has one other echo that I want to just point out. Eicha brings us back to the very first question ever asked in the Torah. The very first question ever asked in the Torah sounds very similar. It was Ayeka. Ayeka. Anybody know who asked that question? Not Abraham. Before. God. God asked Ayeka to Adam and Eve. Ayeka doesn't mean how, like Eicha. Ayeka means, where are you? So if you remember the scene from Gan Eden, from the Garden of Eden, they ate the fruit, and then they hid because they realized that they were naked. And God asked, where are you? It's kind of a funny question, actually, because God, as we know, is all-knowing, and God, you think, would actually know where Adam and Eve were. But it's more of a rhetorical question, kind of like when your parents use your middle name to call out to you when they know that you've done something wrong and they want you to admit what you've done. So that question, Ayeka, calls out to us as individuals. Where are you? It's a good question, I think, for Tisha B'Av, but also as we approach Elul and are starting to get ready for Rosh Hashanah and the new year, of where are you as an individual? And these two words, these significant devarim, these significant words, invite us to think about where we are, how we are as a people, and where we are as individuals. The words that we've received from Torah, the teachings, the lessons, the laws, these devarim have meaning. If we let them permeate into our souls and awaken us with inspiration, I think that can help us answer some of those questions and at least lead us on the path towards finding out where we are and how we are doing. Shabbat Shalom. In a moment, we will conclude on page 5. Oh, yes, Marina's going to play one more song. Thank you.